So earlier today, I talked about games as a service and how it doesn't always add value. I mean, there are reasons to have it, but as I said, like with Pal World or Lethal Company, it's kind of silly to say like, oh, this is what this game needs because it would hurt it. But now let's look at an example of a game that is a games as a service that is going to need some help. And now this isn't to knock the game. I'm going to talk about the finals. It's by Embark Studios. They're majority owned by Nexon. I've actually gone to Korea and spoken in front of Nexon people or for Nexon, and they're smart people to tie this all in. They also were the people who backed Cliff Bleszinski. So there's all my videos coming together in one. But so they've got the finals out. It's a good game. It is a very distinct take on teams of three competing in a space and doing some mixing it up of kind of the games of it, right? These are people who've come from like the Battlefield series and stuff, right? Which are some of my favorite games. So it's not surprising. Like I like the look and feel of a lot of what they do. But it started off with 242,000 concurrent. Now that isn't number of players total, right? That is just at that second. That was their peak. And since then, they've now down to about 40,000. And so probably the guesses would be somewhere between like 4 and 5 million copies sold, you know what I'm saying? Like 4 to 5 million players. Right. And so if you would have sold that for $50 though, you'd be like, hey, there's $200 million. Woohoo. We can sell cosmetics inside that because that's what people do. Right. But they're free to play because they want remember we talked about user acquisition. They want the most people in there that they can get in. And so with that, while the game's free for you, it's not free for them, right? Besides making the game and recovering those costs, which will become quickly small, is they've got to have servers around the world running their game for this, right? And they're not 100-player servers, right? So the great thing with Fortnite always is that a 100-player server is really cheap to run because you have 100 players on it. Where these smaller numbers get more expensive. I mean, they still have a lot of people on their server, but it plays into it, right? But remember, they need the numbers because it's free, right? And so that means most people aren't going to pay them any money. Some people will pay them some money, and then there'll be some whales. Now, on mobile, it's all whale hunting. That's all you care about is you just want these big, giant whales. And I mean, again, you listen to these podcasts of people who make mobile games, and they're all like, oh yeah, I spent $500 on mobile Monopoly, and you're like, why people are broken? I don't know. All right, whatever, but they know the market maybe. Okay, the PC is a little different, but so they have this problem of if you really love a game, if you really love a game, how do you give the developer more money? This is why you can buy soundtracks from games. That's literally the reason why, right? Or you'll see games that almost do DLC that's like, hey, you bought the game for $20 5 years ago, can you give us some money because we want to keep developing this? But right, this is the free to play problem, right? So now they've got games as a service built in kind of thing, right? They've got a battle pass, they got all the classic things. But like someone was saying, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that their battle pass requires you to play like a couple hours a day, every day. That's a big time commitment, right? That's really big. And again, all these games try to become your only game. But it's hard. I mean, look at all the content Call of Duty has. For whatever you want to say negative about Call of Duty, my God, that's like 15 games into one game, right? So they've got a lot of different ways, and they're charging you money up front for that, or they're not. And I'm so confused by that game, I'll be honest. All right, but for the finals, they're not charging you money for it. And they really started with only one way, and they didn't have updates. Now, this is the thing that we talk about with Crunch. Crunch happens because you want to do fast follows, you want to do a lot of updates, you want to get a lot of content in the pipeline. They didn't do that. So in one way, that's good. People are doing okay. They're like they're not really AAA size, AA, something. I don't know. I don't know how to call it's a 100-person in a game studio called anymore. I don't know. But they haven't had a lot of big content drops since launch. So going from 242,000 to 40,000 daily is a problem. Right now, somebody who knows this intimately, once your game gets the stink of dead game on it, it's really hard to get that stink off. They're not a dead game yet, right? 40,000 concurrent is your peak. It's still a really good game, right? We're distorted these days of what we think number-wise. 40,000, they're still in a good place. but they've got to worry about that. So I noticed one of the big drops they did mid month was they added to let you solo play it. Instead of having teams of 3, they did solos and teams of 12, which, okay, server costs go up because you have fewer people on the server, right? Because isn't it normally, I guess it's the same number. I'm bad at math. But that's just letting people, that's just saying, okay, you know what? I can't get 2 other people. I can't organize a team to come in and jump and play this. It's not that popular of a game, right? That's the other problem. Like, I don't have time for these kind of games because I play with our community, and organizing those games takes me forever to do. And so I'm already have like 2 nights a week normally where I'm organized that I'm going to be playing. I can't sit there and organize other days that I'm going to play games with people. So doing the solo queue, that's how I often jump into multiplayer games. That's how I play PUBG. I rarely played with other people. So that could be them trying to counter that. But like, if you are the finals right now, what are you going to do? Because you need those big numbers. Like that's the kind of game that gets hurt when Fortnite does Lego Fortnite and everybody goes there for a week or whatever new Fortnite thing they're doing, right? That's who gets hurt when Pal World takes off, because it breaks people out of the cycle of playing every night, and now you're losing them, right? And there are going to be a lot of these mid-size games as a service, free-to-play games, right? Because I'll tell you what, you go listen to any of those podcasts I talked about earlier in the day, everyone's going to tell you, oh, free-to-play is the only way to make money in games anymore. And those are people who aren't, or they're all consultants or all advisors right now, because the finals is in this problem of free-to-play may have not been the right choice. Free-to-play isn't the only way to make money anymore, right? And I think people have to understand the changing times. We all can't be the game everybody plays every single night. It doesn't work that way. And when there are these big monsters, you see games, and I'll hear this all the time, like, oh, Pal World, or I'm going to use Lethal Company. I'm going to call it Pog World, by the way, because I think I annoyed somebody calling it Pale World earlier. But, oh my God, now I lost my train of thought because I mispronounced the words. Oh, I mispronounced so many words. I can't even believe, right? But they'll say those are flashes in the pans. Those are, hey, they got out and got in. Well, but hey, if you invested in that, you would be really happy, right? You'd be happy with that flash in the pan, but it's not the $1 billion. Sorry. So you hear about this all the time, right? Where you work at a company and I'm going to say names, but you can think of names that begin with VNR that are like, well, this isn't a $1 billion idea and we can only do $1 billion games. And I mean, Riot actually talked about this, right? So I can't say them. They said that they can't do the small bets. They got to do the big bets. Well, this is the market saying they got to only do the big bets. They can't do the small bets. Except you can't all win in the big bets. And I guess, yeah, sure, in the small bets you can lose as well. But there's almost not a way to win unless you're bigger. Like, I think we're hitting this size of market now where something like the finals is really, really going to struggle because it is not the blow it out of the water giant hit it needs to be. It needs to be massive. It needs to be able to have some new game come out and people be like, oh, screw that new game. I love this game. This is a game I want to play. So partially you need a lot of game to play, and not just one mode, but like a lot of game to play. Again, it's a really well done game. It is a beautiful game. But you just need more of it all the time and more players. And so that's when we talk about like games as a service, in this trap now that a lot of the developers of this size making a game of this size are like, well, no, we need to, because we're going to look at, and they're going to point to a bunch of examples of successes, but not everything can be the success. The math doesn't work out anymore. There's too many of these, right? You can't even get Destiny 2 level of success, and Destiny 2 is not big enough for Destiny 2, right? So we're in a weird time. We are going to see a bunch more of these kind of games. I know Ubi's pulled one back, and a couple other people have pulled them back because they've been worried about the waters, because I'm not that smart. If I could figure this out, they can figure it out. That we're in a really weird spot with some games just dominating so much time that you can't just be another one. And what is the thing that breaks you out? And I hate to say this, I don't think it's just gameplay anymore. It's like everything. So, yeah, we'll see. Good luck for everyone at the finals, man. I wish you the best. I really do. But it's going to be a hard road.